Welcome to another episode of This is Wilmington, a Signal Fire media production. Our guest today is Mr. Jim Roberts. Jim, how are you doing, sir?
Very good. Happy it's sunny outside and not raining or snowing. So
we've had too much, like in the last 3 weeks. Actually, speaking of snow, the snowstorm we had like two weekends ago. Have you ever seen snow appear and disappear faster in your life?
No.
It was gone. It was like here at 11 and gone by 11:30. It was unbelievable.
It was kind of a tease for the kids.
Yeah.
Right? They thought they were going to have snow to go sledding, and then you realize you're in the flatland.
Yeah, we built like
you don't have any hills anyway.
We built a 6-inch snowman, and it was completely melted within 30 or 45 minutes.
But it depends on the angle of how you shoot the shot of the snowman. It could look 6 feet tall.
Really, get that low perspective. Well, Jim, thanks for being a guest on the show. I mean, really, what this show is all about is, we've been doing podcasting. Matt, Evan, and I, we've been doing podcasting for a little bit over a year, and our show has been very focused around the military community and military leadership. And the more that we did our show, Signal Fire Radio, the more we got introduced to civilian leaders here in the Wilmington area. And so this is, I guess, maybe 50% for us wanting to sort of bridge that gap between a really good entrepreneurial military community that we have, that you know a lot about yourself personally, but also the business community at large in Wilmington, and sort of bridging that gap between the two, but also, like, for anybody that's watching or anybody that's listening to this, we want to highlight the amazing leadership in our community, the exceptional growth that's happening right here in Wilmington, New Hanover, Onslow, Pender, Brunswick County, and then just kind of highlight, like, sort of the lifestyle that we have here. Because I think we've got something special, man. And I feel like you've been on it longer than most other people in town that I've seen. So, I mean, maybe just kind of give, an intro. We'll start there.
Sure. Yeah, so in 2013, I was recruited to Wilmington from Raleigh to open the UNCW CIE, the Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which opened on Labor Day weekend of 2013. And it was kind of a standing room only crowd and high energy. And, this thing had been built up for a couple years before it opened. And immediately it was very successful. We had great events. We were renting the co-working space and all of that, and that was going really well. And 12 months after opening the center, we got an award from the SBA, or the Small Business Administration. And I got a nice reward and a check at the White House, man.
Did you really?
$100,000 grant from the
You got
the White House.
Go to the White House?
I got to go to the White House.
Did you meet the president?
I did not. We were all very disappointed.
What year was that?
It was Obama.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was 2014.
You got to meet a staffer, high-level staffer.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work, Mr. Roberts.
I can say I got my picture taken in the White House kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. It was real validation, because it was one of the 100 best incubators in the country. And we're 12 months old, right? And so the growth continued from there. And then in spring of 2015, I started my own independent nonprofit, which is called the Network for Entrepreneurs of Wilmington. And frankly, that's really what I'm most known for, because we have great entrepreneur events. I was on a podcast earlier today, and we were talking about this thing that I've created called the Coastal Corridor. So if you realize that all the successful people in Raleigh-Durham probably have a beach house.
Yeah, why wouldn't they? Right? Yeah.
So I figured out, if I invited them down to speak on a Thursday at 4 o'clock, they would just make it a weekend.
Yeah.
Right? So I figured it out the other day. I've asked 81 people since 2015, and I've had one person turn me down.
Really?
So that's 80 investors that never had really spoken in Wilmington before. They come to the beach, they enjoy the sun and the salt and the ocean, but they're not here in business mode. Mm-hmm. And if you can just add that one day where they come, and what's come of that are real investments, angel investors and venture capitalists that have made investments. We're talking Co-Founders Capital, Jurassic Capital, and several angel investors that's money that had never been invested in Wilmington or our ecosystem, and money that, was invested in Raleigh or somewhere else instead. And it was me kind of spending my political capital to invite these people down, or people that I had known for a decade or more. Mm-hmm. And so I had built up that relationship, and I knew that I could have an audience for them. and at worst they get a free trip to the beach house,
right?
I mean,
right.
So it's
it's
not
not like
bad,
it's not like they're going to somewhere miserable.
Yeah,
So at least get something good out of the deal.
Later that year, I started what we're calling the WALE Angel Network. So it's the Wilmington Angels for local entrepreneurs. And since 2015, in November 2015, we've made 16 investments at over $1 million. And we're usually the very first money in to a startup. And that's why the deal size is so small. 'Cause, I mean, it could be a $25,000 check or a $100,000 check. And so, we're real proud of that. And another thing I do a lot is advocacy. So I serve on all these statewide committees that, never really had a Wilmington representative because we've never had an ecosystem before. And so I get to serve on these committees and choose companies that go on investor events and companies that win awards and win grants. And that's good validation for entrepreneurs that are going out to raise money and say, hey, we just won this best startup in the state award or the best software company in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Imagine a Wilmington company for the first time winning the best software company in North Carolina when you've got Raleigh-Durham right there.
Right.
So when Encino won at the North Carolina Technology Association, they won the software company of the year. You can imagine 80% of the crowd is like, who's that?
Yeah,
I never heard of
where's
that.
Wilmington?
Right?
Are we talking about Delaware?
Right. And then a few years later, they're having an IPO on Wall Street.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I've done that I think are a really important part of the ecosystem that weren't being done before.
What did you see prior to you really just deciding to roll up your sleeve? Because it's in a lot of ways, to me on the outside looking in, not knowing you very, very well, but having interacted with you a couple different times. Was there an ecosystem for this prior to you coming here for the CIE?
No, so the only organization, there was an entrepreneurial council that was at the business school. But other than that, it was not necessarily, I would say there were more mentors involved, and the mentors were really there for the students. It wasn't a community of entrepreneurs that were going to these entrepreneur council events. And that was the power of having that incubator space at 803 South College at the CIE. That was this is a place where on a monthly or even a weekly basis, you can have 100 people come into the facility and 10% of them had never been there and they ask for a tour and 2 of them sign up for a lease, right? And that's how we got kind of a critical mass of entrepreneurs at the CIE.
Yeah.
So no, there wasn't an ecosystem. There were some people who were trying to do it, but didn't really have the resources to pull it off.
Yeah. So what were some of those resources that they lacked that you helped bring in?
I think one is having these connections with these outside organizations. The North Carolina Technology Association was actually the first event we ever had, and Kurt Taylor of Untapped attended that lunch, and then 3 months later, he's winning a startup award. Or there's an organization in Raleigh called the CED. It's the Council for Entrepreneur Development. At one time, it was the largest entrepreneur support organization in the world. Well, when they knew that I was here, they asked me to serve on the committee. That means that I get to invite Wilmington startups to apply for the largest investor conference in the South.
Right.
There's 1,000 people there that come to this annual conference, and 100 of those people are investors.
Yeah.
And so a few Wilmington companies had been on stage before. There was a company called Trans One Pharma that did really well. But other than that, there weren't many companies. And this is including Encino had not participated yet. And so we all knew Encino was going to be on the skyrocket.
Yeah.
But it was a good introduction to have someone as professional as Encino on the stage representing Wilmington. Just knowing how to build an ecosystem. I've been doing this for 22, 23 years now. And so when I moved here in 2013, I had already been doing it for 13 years. And I had been doing it in Charlotte, in Asheville, and Raleigh-Durham. And just that experience and being able to do, one of the best things I do is I'm a PR junkie.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not for me. It's for the companies
Yeah.
And so I think if you're new to this, you're thinking, well, somebody should do the PR for these startups and help them get in the newspapers.
Sure.
And if you ask that question enough times, you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, no, you're the person.
Yeah.
I should be doing that. I'm the solution to that problem. And we've gotten great press, all over. I don't know if you know this, but there's a startup newsletter based out of Atlanta. It's called Hippopotamus. Mm-hmm. And we were the second most read article of all of last year in Atlanta.
Wow.
Right?
That's where we came from, is Atlanta.
Those people have never heard of Wilmington.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I only heard of it because I was stationed at Lejeune. That's the only reason why I knew about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I convinced this very nice editor out of Atlanta, and she traveled here on January 6th of last year, the same day as what happened in D.C. And, we're going meeting to meeting to meeting, and of course she's getting alerts on her phone, DC's on fire kind of thing. And but she wrote a great article, and I pushed the hell out of it in every channel that I had, and we had over 5,000 reads. The only article we trailed was an article about Mark Cuban, one of the sharks, who invested. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of reputational brand equity there.
So, he barely beat us out in the most read article in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And, some things have come of it. Some people have called and said, hey, I have a second house in Atlanta or in Wilmington, and I'm living in the South. A guy out of Florida contacted me, actually. He had read that article, and he said, hey, I've got this house in Wilmington. I had no idea you guys had an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So just raising the awareness of what we have, because right now you think of Wilmington's expensive, but Charleston is on fire, right? And Florida's on fire. Yeah. So if you're an entrepreneur and you don't want to pay 40% of your wages in housing or whatever, can you find a more affordable place to start your business?
Yeah.
And why not Wilmington?
What was your personal reason for choosing Wilmington? I'm sure you had other places you could have gone.
I needed an ecosystem to lead. People in my position, they don't leave their jobs, right? The woman who ran CED ran that organization for 25 years. Mm-hmm. So if you want to run an entrepreneur support organization, you got to find a city that either doesn't have one or their leader has moved on. Right. Right. And I had applied for this job, and I had a mentor of mine who knew the chancellor, and he got me an interview. And it's a funny story. I handed the chancellor a book about ecosystems, and I said, if you like what's in this book, then I'm the right person for that job. And I got hired the next day.
That's the interview.
Right. It was. It was great. And that's the story. Yeah. So again, why did I come to Wilmington? Well, people like the beach.
Yeah.
I'm actually a Florida kid. I grew up in Chicago, and but 7th grade in high school and college was in the state of Florida. So I enjoy everything that Wilmington has to offer.
Yeah. So we're 7 to 8 years into you being here, and I guess I would say when we got here in 19, I came for a lot of the reasons that you described. I grew up in Atlanta. I worked for big, large corporations. I ran huge sales teams, and I saw Wilmington as an opportunity to be a big fish in a small pond, so to speak, or to bring kind of what I knew about marketing and customer service and sales and all that stuff, creating a great customer experience and putting that in a small town that I saw had a ton of opportunity. But I don't even think we've scratched the surface on what Wilmington is or can be. Looking out ahead 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what does this look like in your opinion?
Well, I think we're finding an interesting trend of, now that we've built a reputation and we've had what's required in an ecosystem is to have an exit. So to have something like an Encino and an IPO or Untapped and have their private equity, or to have a company called PlayerSpace and they got acquired by a company out of Houston. That is the proving ground that your community will support entrepreneurs. And now that we've had 3 of those in the same year, we're getting entrepreneurs already relocating. I don't know if you read that story. It was in Hippopotamus. It's a company called Fetch. And it's a company that basically is allowing you to communicate to the hotel that you're staying in through your phone. Mm-hmm. So instead of the room phone, if you're out by the pool, how would you communicate to the hotel?
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay.
Say, hey,
what a great idea.
The hotel can reach out to you and say, hey, we're having a special on steaks tonight. Can we get you a reservation? Well, okay, 25% off of
why not?
Ribeye or
I'm here. I got to eat.
Strip,
yeah,
right,
might as well take advantage of it.
And so that's something he's working on. But this is my favorite story. In 20 years, this is one of my favorite top 5 stories. He reached out to me on LinkedIn or email, and he sent me a couple questions, and I sent a response back. So basically, while he was in the U-Haul, from rest stop to hotel to restaurant, he was responding to my questions. And we were having this conversation while he's on the way moving to Wilmington.
Yeah.
Because he had never been here before.
Okay.
Right? So Colorado
He was coming
Springs,
sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be an entrepreneur, to start his company, they had the idea and just wanted to be in a warmer place because his son is on the East Coast. But that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I've never talked to you. You've never, and we're having this crazy, when is he going to respond? 3 hours, 3 days? I don't know.
Maybe never. Yeah, who knows?
But
yeah.
I gave him all the information. By the time he got here, he felt like he knew the ecosystem, and he knew what were the, resources that he needed and where they were and who to contact.
Yeah.
And that's great.
What are so we know, people will come here because living on the coast is amazing. That's why both coasts, the East and West Coast, have more people on it than basically the rest of the middle of the country combined. You talked about some of the resources, CIE. There's already now some proof and concept of some companies who have come here and done it and exited successfully or scaled successfully. What are those other resources, those maybe intangibles that somebody coming from Colorado Springs would go, all right, Wilmington is where I'm going to go because it has this, and this. And I feel like those are the things I need to be successful.
Well, we have what I call 3.5 angel networks. So we have my angel network, which is called WALE. There's the Wilmington Investor Network that's been around for 20 years. There's the Venture South Network, which actually has 15 chapters in the South, and the former Cape Fear IMF. So there is capital here. You just really have to work. You have to prove every way you can to kind of get access to that capital. Okay. We're usually the first money in, so we're not as tough as the other guys. Like a Venture South, they're post-revenue. So you already have to find some clients, and then they get a lot more interested. And so those are the things that are really new, again, within the last 8 years that have been added to the ecosystem. Just knowing that these resources are available, the CIE has a mentor network that's very valuable. It's probably the best thing they've done. And so if you're a new entrepreneur, you come, you give a presentation, maybe 10 minutes, and there's 35 mentors in the room, and 5 of them raise their hand and go, hey, I know something about that industry. I'd like to be on that mentor network.
Okay.
So we have a lot of first-time entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We have a lot of college graduates, right? But maybe you'll agree with this. I don't know. This is a fun conversation to have is I think people move to Wilmington because they believe the tourism brochure as a place to live.
Yeah.
And it's not quite that way, right? Until very recently, it was really the middle class to high-end jobs were not here.
Yeah.
We were a tourism economy and a service economy. And oddly, now things have flipped. I don't know if you saw that Star News article that 20,000 kind of technology service jobs have been created in the last couple of years.
Wow.
And that's a big, big number.
Yeah.
Right? Those jobs are not recruited by recruiters.
Yeah.
Those are small businesses and startups. And that's 2 different categories. A small business can be a lifestyle business that, kind of has family members and friends and probably never has more than 12 employees. Investors don't play in that game.
Yeah.
We're trying to build
looking
the next
for unicorns.
Encino and Untapped and those kind of companies. Those are the jobs that every city in America is trying to build. And it's getting harder and harder to recruit those because the cities are getting wiser about retaining the jobs that they have. And so where do those jobs come from are new entrepreneurs, and you have to be welcoming to these new entrepreneurs to your city.
Yeah.
And they can't wait 5 years for you to get to know them enough, comfortable enough to make some introductions. That needs to be a 5-day process. And so, if I may, kind of the good old boy network really doesn't work well with fast growth entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It really has to be a fast moving, welcome to town, what can I do? As Techstars, you know what Techstars is?
No, I don't.
So Techstars is a program where they spend 3 months with your startup. So you come in with an idea, and 3 months later, you're a polished business plan.
Yeah.
Put you on stage, and you're not going to embarrass anyone. You've been coached to death almost, right? And so that's what Techstars does. But they invest $100,000 in your company, and then they put you to this 3-month boot camp, if you will, with all respect
they want
due
to protect
to the veterans.
Protect their investment.
Right.
Sure, I get that.
Right. And so that's called Techstars. And one of the things they do is all the programming you have to agree to give first. It's not transactional of, hey, if I'm going to help you, then you've got to give me a finder's fee kind of thing. It's here are the resources you need. And when you win, please give back. And that's how ecosystems have to work.
Yeah.
And in conservative southern cities, that's just not the culture of it.
Yeah.
It's, again, did my granddad do business with your
Right.
granddad?
Yep.
And have I seen you at church for the last 3 years every Sunday?
Yeah.
And do my kids play with your kids? And maybe I might open a door for you.
Well, there's almost a little bit of hesitation, too, if you're a new person in town and, you want to, I'll use the establishment, I guess. You want to solicit a product or raise money or something. Sometimes those people are met with hesitation. How do you break down that door to say, okay, Wilmington is a town with a rich history, old city, old families, and now there's people like you and I and Matt and all these people that I know that have come from completely different places in the country with new ideas about what Wilmington could be. How do you balance those two things and make sure everybody feels kind of copacetic with each other?
Are you a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk?
Love Gary V. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The name of Gary's book is
Jab, right hook. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years and what I do. So I got into this business as a frustrated website salesman. I was a relationship guy.
Yeah.
You saw me all over town. I was selling a new product in 1996 in Charlotte, and no one knew what the internet was, and no one had any idea how big the internet was going to be. But I was a website salesman. And so when I was doing sales, I would do 3 favors for my prospects before I asked for the sale. Right? And that's still how I'm working today. So if I meet a new entrepreneur, what I do is I say, tell me 3 things that you need today that if you had the magic wand, your business would be better tomorrow. Well, I need an introduction to a patent lawyer, that's affordable because I'm a startup. Or, hey, I need an introduction to the hospital because my product I need to sell not only to the Wilmington Hospital, but the Atlanta Hospital or the Myrtle Beach Hospital.
Right.
And so what I do is I walk them down these 3 questions every time I meet with them. The thing that I do differently is I'm also contacting the people that I referred them to.
Right.
And say, hey
heads
can
up.
you actually use, not only that, I'm saying after they meet, can you tell me, do you need that product that the entrepreneur described to you?
So because if market validation.
If I get 3 no's from my referrals that this person didn't follow up, I never heard from them again, then why am I going to spend my time on it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you're not going to put in the effort. Why? Yeah.
If hospitals don't need this product, it's something that's already on the market, this entrepreneur's just not done their market research, then I don't need to spend any more time with that entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And those are the steps that I take before I open my whole contact list.
I think that's a smart way to pre-qualify, but you're also giving people value up front, and then but asking the question like, okay, now that I've delivered this value to you, what are you willing to do with it? Because if you're going to write a 6-figure check, or if they go on to another level, and now we're talking 7-8-figure checks, like you want to make sure that person's going to be in it.
Yep. I want the fire in the belly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. And honestly, that's one of the weaknesses that we have here in Wilmington. That's why I love this guy from Colorado.
Yeah.
Because every time I say, hey, take a look at this opportunity, next time I talk to him, he's already done it.
Yeah.
I don't have to remind him, hey, did you take this meeting or what happened? He's like, yeah, I applied last week.
Yeah. We saw that exact same thing. It's so funny, Jim. I tell this story all the time. Like my wife and I, we came up here probably for 8 years to vacation. And every time we'd come up here, we'd be like, this is the year. We're going to move here, right? So we'd get the real estate magazines from the Harris Teeter or whatever, and we'd find like some houses, and we would call on them, and we never got a call back from a real estate agent.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Ever. And we're like scratching our heads because there's beautiful houses. They're in our price range. Like we could get pre-qualified for it. We just want to go see it. And we never get a phone call back. And we were like, does it really want to work that hard? Do they need the money? Or
that's what I saw when I moved here.
Yeah, us
was
too.
The lack of the fire in the belly, or the lack of the hustle, if you will, and that You have to have that, because I described this earlier. If you don't have that hustle, the sexiness of being an entrepreneur wears off in about 18 months. And you're like, holy.
Yeah, because now I'm broke.
Now this is a job,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
no longer, the thing no one's asking me about my startup 18 months later if I haven't been in the headlines and my product's stuck because I can't find talent or I can't afford the tech talent that I need, or I need these microchips that I can't find anywhere because there's a shortage around the world.
Yeah.
And people stop talking about your startup, and it's no longer fun then.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
But only the entrepreneurs that have that fire in the belly scrap to find the resources they need to grow when it's tough.
Do you worry, is there any concern with you, and I think I know how you'll answer this, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. Is there any concern with you that the more people, the more Colorado Springs people, the more Atlanta people, the more Floridians that come here that have that fire in the belly, the sense of urgency, that we'll lose some of what makes this area good or great?
No, I don't. If your city's not evolving, I don't know if you've ever been in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Man, that's my favorite place on earth.
Yeah, Austin's
right?
a great city.
And Silicon Valley's been hustling for 30 years, and it evolves. I think Wilmington can evolve. It has evolved since I got here in 2013. Downtown is completely different.
Yeah.
Before Untapped, you never saw those kind of middle wage or jobs. Those people were making $85,000 to $100,000, and George was giving them like restaurant, gift certificates.
Yeah.
Hey, support this restaurant because we want them. Because you want your employees to have live, work, play, or they're going to move to a city that has it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Austin.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out how to move to Austin for 20 years.
Don't go yet. We need you for a few more years here.
I go to South by Southwest. I've been to 10 years. I get my fix. I don't have to move there anymore.
Yeah.
I got my fix. But, if you can have rooftop, they make guacamole at your table.
Yeah.
You have a cold beverage.
Yeah.
You're on a rooftop. You're overlooking 6th Street on South by Southwest. And it's just like, wow.
It's heaven, right?
Yeah.
I think
For an extrovert, you're like, wow, there's unlimited
There's
stimulation.
so many people here for me to talk to.
Right.
I think you'll see. You normally would assume you'd see a lot of that stuff sort of follow as we have more talented people here. More money is being invested in the area. Then you see the amenities or those anchor type businesses that support a community, and it gets better. Like you see restaurants start to challenge themselves to go, oh, we could be a little bit better. We could increase our prices a little bit, but we can bring in, food that people would be more willing to try. And then that creates a more interesting place, in my opinion. And so let's hope that that's what's coming next to us. You already see it in downtown.
I'd love to see a high-end hotel on the sand.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't have
a lot of people would fight that. But it's funny you mention that because, like, when we first started coming down here, we would be like, oh, what's downtown Wilmington like? Because we lived in Atlanta, and going to Midtown Atlanta is super cool. It's where all the great restaurants are, the great hangouts, much like Austin. And people are like, you don't want to go to downtown. In, like, last month's Greater Wilmington Business Journal, they were writing a feature about how great downtown is.
Right.
So you see that happening in real time, that like, okay, an area that was once considered don't go there, or there's nothing to do there, or it's boring, is now an attraction to people, and that only happens because of what you described. There's an ecosystem and a cultural change with it.
I think the music venue is a great addition to downtown. They haven't played my kind of music yet, but
what are you holding out for? If you had one concert to pick for 2022, who would it be?
You don't know me that well, but I grew up. So my dad was a basketball coach on the south side of Chicago.
Okay,
and so he and I were the only white folks on the bus.
Yeah.
So I grew up at the start of hip hop.
Okay.
So that is who I am.
Okay. Man, I grew up in...
There's nothing fake about it. I don't know any other kind of music, right?
I grew up in Metro Atlanta, so it's the same. Like, all the hip-hop from, like, Outkast in the early 2000s up until whatever, that kind of died, faded out of that phase in, like, the early 2000s, mid-2000s. I'm right. We could probably go for hours.
Oh, yeah.
We go for hours.
Yeah, I go all the way back to Run DMC and Sugar Hill. That's how old
Sugar Hill
I am.
Gang, sure.
I'm 51.
Some Cameo, right?
Yeah, all of that.
Tennessee.
So if you hear my car, it's all 90s hip hop.
Sounds like aluminum cans in the back, right? Just bass
rattling.
Well,
that's a funny story. In college, my dad gave me a Corvette, and I took it to college, but my buddy got his car broken into, and the only thing left in his car were the speakers because they were bolted down. So in a Corvette, I had two 17-inch woofers. Right, there's not much space in a Corvette. Right, there's no back seat. Yeah. So it was
What year model Corvette was this?
85.
Okay, my dad has an 85. I know it well. You're not fitting with the Tron speedometer in there, the bars that
this was a T-top.
Okay, yeah.
So it might have been an older car than that. I had three of them. My dad splurged. He was the only thing he ever splurged with.
That's awesome.
These cars.
That's good. Good to dote on your kids every once in a while. We got a few minutes left. You've got a big event coming up towards the end of February. Why don't you tell everybody about that?
So we're having an event called our Riverside Chat, and we've got 3 VIPs coming to talk. And the reason this event is important is because it's going to describe the relationship of an entrepreneur and an investor before the guy writes the check, and what's it like after he writes the check. So we've got the leader of the Angel Capital Association, the nationwide leader of this group, which means he has great investor contacts, right?
Yep.
We've got the most active venture capitalist in the state of North Carolina, a guy named David Gardner of Co-Founders Capital, and he's got a house here at the beach, of course. And then a local entrepreneur that he invested in, Charles Davis of Easy Vote Solutions. And they wrote over $1 million check into this local startup. And again, how do you build the rapport so the investor writes the check? And then what is it like afterwards? Because if you're a first-time entrepreneur, you're probably pretty scared of what that relationship is. You don't want to screw up your one opportunity to impress the investor. So you get the second meeting and the third meeting, and eventually the guy writes the check. And then what is it like afterwards? What are those terms that you agree on to get the check written? Because you'd be shocked at the number of deals that the investor says yes, but the check never gets written because those little details that you forgot to discuss are deal breakers.
Yeah.
Right? And then what's it like after he writes the check? What kind of relationship do you have? If you're new to this, you would think that the investor tries to take over your company. And of course, that's not what they want to do, but that's the reputation of it. So this is a very interesting investor that before they write the investor check, they go on the sales calls with the entrepreneur. So they get a real gauge of the talent of the entrepreneur,
right.
the need in the marketplace, and, is that person that you have high on your pipeline, are they really there, or are you lying?
You're just...
So the guy has the audacity to say, if you want my check,
let's go.
I'm coming with you.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go on the sales call.
Move your child care seat, because I'm getting in the back seat. Let's go. Let's go to Atlanta and go sell this prospect you say you're 99% sure is going to. Yeah. That's before he writes the check.
It's a great way to do it. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah. It'd be nerve-wracking if you got a 7-figure check riding on how this one meeting,
I would think
multiple meetings.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the makeup of the person. Because if I had that opportunity, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, I'm about to schmaltz the heck out of this person, and go as as hard as I can to get a yes, or at least get an agreement on the next step. So
I did this. I'll be real quick. I had this event in in Asheville in, I want to say 2003. And it was a guy named Steve Nelson as the investor, and he invested in this kid when he was 18 years old as a tech entrepreneur, wrote him a multi-million-dollar check. The kid was still in high school.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's crazy.
What were you doing at 18? Yeah, right.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing. Chasing women and watching Top Gun.
Right, but eventually he believed in this kid so much that a few years down the road, Motricity was the name of the company, and they went public, and the investors all made money.
That's awesome.
But that's a difficult, on both sides,
Yeah.
as an 18-year-old and an investor to go.
It's not easy for anyone.
Everyone says this kid's, very smart,
Yeah.
but he's 18.
Yeah. You still got a lot of life to live. No matter what you know technically, there's still all these other things that you have the potential to screw up from 18 to 100, frankly. So the event's February 24th.
Right, at 3:30 p.m.
Okay.
It's a little earlier than we normally do it. We got to be out of there by 5 because there's a wedding.
We got a tight window.
At Ironclad Brewery. And reason we go to Ironclad is because the owner of the brewery is our lead investor in the Angel Network.
Yeah.
And he sells the beer and he lets us have the event for free at his location. And it's worked well for the last, since 2015. So we're very proud to partner with Ironclad.
Yeah, and it's another great reason that downtown has experienced a little bit of its revitalization. That's a great location that they have there. Put a ton of money into it. Beautiful venue. So February 24th, 3:30 at Ironclad Brewery.
Correct.
Excellent. Jim, well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and being exactly what the spirit of this project is meant to be. Like, highlight our leadership, highlight our community, highlight the future of what we have here in Wilmington and what is yet to come. And so I just want to thank you so very much for coming on. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to find me. I'm on Twitter, REDSPIRE USNC, so it's Red Spire USNC. Or you can find our website at newilm.com.
Nice. Excellent. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of This is Wilmington. This is a production of Signal Fire Media. This is what we do professionally. We host podcasts, we create YouTube channels and social media content for entrepreneurs, small businesses, or anybody that wants to get a message out in the digital landscape. If you have any interest in contacting us for our services, we'd be more than happy to chat with you. Please get up with us at signalfire.media. Again, that's signalfire.media, or email us. It's Matt@signalfire.media or Rob@signalfire.media. We will talk to you next time.